Hello and welcome. My name is Ryan Hendrick, and I am your Keto Witness. And I want to thank you for joining me today. This is my first video recording, or audio recording rather, and I want to thank you for joining me. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why I started the Keto Witness, my personal journey into the ketogenic diet, and then I'm going to tackle our first topic for discussion today. So, first of all, like I said, my name is Ryan Hendrick. A few years ago, I became a type 2 diabetic, or at least I found out that I had it. Really, I probably have had it for closer to 15 to 20 years. When I found out that I had it, I did some research and I found out it's tied with the weight gain. Well, actually, my whole life I've been heavier than I care to admit. But anyway, I developed type 2 diabetes and I went on a search and I came across the Dr. Atkins diet, the ketogenic movement, and several forms of the low carb diet. I started on it faithfully. I stayed on it for almost a year, lost almost all the weight that I needed to. My blood sugars were spot on. My health just got so much better. Unfortunately, I had a lapse at a Thanksgiving dinner and it was really gaining a lot of the weight back. My blood sugars went out of control again. Now I'm on my journey to get back to where I was and hopefully even healthier than before. Being a single father of a 10-year-old boy, it's very important that I'm here for him to share my witness to you. And that's the beautiful thing about the idea of the keto witness. In reality, every one of you are a witness who have done this diet. You're a witness in of yourself to the keto movement, to the keto revolution. And that's what this is designed for. It's not just designed for me to sit here and give you information that may or may not be useful to you personally, but it's also going to give other people the opportunity to share their testimony and then help encourage other people along. How many of you have done the ketogenic diet and been successful? You know, I can vision people raising their hand to that. How many people started the ketogenic diet and did really well for a little while, and then they had a weight stall for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then they gave up? They're like, well, it stopped working. You know, a lot of us can raise our hands to that. However, as many of you know, if you stick with the diet, those weight loss plateaus most likely will go away and you'll start losing weight again. Otherwise, you probably got something going on there that you might need to see a doctor about, especially if you got like issues with the thyroid. But at any rate, coming back to the thought here, I'm back. I'm here. This Keto Witness program is designed to be inclusive of everyone and their journey to better health. And that's the idea that I had behind the Keto Witness. I'm just one of many in a field. Okay, I do want to add, I'm not a physician. I'm not a educator. I am not a trained dietitian. Anything that is said here is meant to be informal. It's up to everybody to research this diet, find out where they're at in their health, and take the appropriate steps to make sure that you're doing the diet in the correct way. We'll touch on many of the issues that people have throughout these audio recordings, but at the same time, we got to make sure that we do our due diligence. Unfortunately, when I stepped into the ketogenic diet the first time, I had no idea what the keto flu was, and I fell smack into it with issues, all because I didn't up my electrolytes the way that I was supposed to. Go figure, right? But I didn't stop. I didn't give up. I saw it through. I got into ketosis and everything was great. My blood sugars were constantly below 90. Constantly. Even when I woke up with this Dom phenomenon, it was never more than like 100 or 105, and it would come down pretty quick throughout the day. So my hemoglobin H1C went from over a 10, I forgot exactly where it was between 10 and 11, to 4.7. Now, that is as good a marker to the health as I'm aware of. Is your blood sugar control. Because if your blood sugar is controlled at that level, especially if you're a diabetic, then your insulin is under control. Yes, and that's without medication. No, I never took medication. I was never offered medication. My doctor was impressed that I took this upon myself to correct these issues, and he said it was not necessary for me to take insulin, not necessary for me to take medicine. He was totally supportive. And that is my prayer. Let every one of you find a supportive physician, because let me tell you, a supportive physician is a great thing to have. Somebody who believes in you, you can believe in them. That's what I always say anyway. So what is the topic of today? Today's topic is going to be on protein. Out of everything that I've witnessed, if I can use that word here, witnessed about this program, is that there seems to be no more confusing a topic to tackle than protein. Well, first of all, you have such a wide spectrum of people, especially online, who tell you that your needs fluctuate between anywhere from 60 to 70 grams a day, and then I've heard some people say well north of 200 a day. And the truth is that's such a wide spectrum there. I thought I wanted to tackle this here. If you're anything like me, you're like, well, what does all of this mean? You got good people out there who do wonderful work, like Stephanie Keto Person. Tip the hat to her. She's dealt with a lot of people, and she's definitely knowledgeable in this program. And people have lost weight and gotten their blood sugars under control with her level of recommendation with protein. Then you have the Primal Edge approach, which takes a more liberal approach to protein, barring that you don't have special circumstances like epilepsy and things of that nature that you're trying, or cancer that you're trying to target with specific therapy on the diet. You know, his philosophy is an extra 20 or 30 grams is going to kick you out of ketosis. And I happen to agree with him on that. Tristan is an amazing representative to this program. And if you get the chance, you should definitely follow along with what he has done. But see, that's the great thing. Whether or not you want to follow Stephanie's approach or Tristan's approach, they're both health coaches in this movement and have literally helped thousands of people get on track with their health. And because they're both successful in what they're doing, it's hard to argue what they're doing. However, if you're like me and you want to come right back here to the middle and ask yourself, okay, which one is it? Is it the less protein or more protein? Which approach should we take? Well, first of all, let me say this. I happen to believe that most people probably are taking a little bit more protein than they actually have to have on this program, and that's still okay. And let me explain why. Your body needs a certain amount of protein. It should not be looked as a fuel source at all. Because in reality, even though you'll burn a little bit, it's not your fuel source that your body's going to go to. Protein is an as-needed basis. So you need enough to support your muscle, your bone, your structure, so forth and so on. The amino acids in of themselves have specific functions that they can do inside the body. So there is a minimum amount that you need. And it's also true that when you're on ketosis, your body's much more effective at using those amino acids and proteins. And so you actually end up not needing, as much to thrive. However, when you're on the ketogenic diet, one of the freedoms that you have in the program is to be able to differentiate hunger cravings and when you're not having hunger cravings. I don't believe that the historical approach to those who have had a low-carb diet as part of their natural lifestyle, like some of the Native Americans, some of the Inuits up in Canada, I don't believe they sit down and portion controlled everything and counted up protein and counted up fat. Okay, you get where I'm going with that, right? They didn't sit down with a calculator and a pen and paper and say, okay, I need this much fat, this much protein, this much carbs. When carbs was out of the question, except for maybe seasonal berries and stuff like that, they, by default, went to the fattier cut of meat. And then would follow up with the leaner cuts of meat later, or they would ironically enough, serve some of those leaner cuts of meat to their sled dogs. Especially the Inuits did. So, does that give us an idea of how much protein that they were eating? Maybe, to a certain degree. But at the same time, they may have ate quite a bit of it at one time. So, in other words, they may not have ate 3 square meals a day like we're used to here in America. They might have had one really extended meal that might have covered somewhere between 1 to 200 grams of protein, and then they might not eat again for a couple of days, or maybe not until the next day. So, it's interesting when you take a look at it from that angle. They just didn't need to count that, and that's what I'm going to tell you. Trust your body on this. Trust your body. If you're concerned about this idea that protein turns into sugar into the body, don't be. That has actually been refuted. If you go and spend about 10 or 15 minutes doing a thorough research on those studies where people actually had a little more protein in their diet. Now, I'm not talking about a ridiculous number, my friends. I'm not saying that somebody should sit down and eat 200 or 300 grams of protein a day. No, that's not. Then you've got a problem. But there's actually a much more flexible number that somebody can work with, and for me personally, I get anywhere between about 80 and 120, 125, somewhere in that range of protein on any given day, and my blood sugar numbers are not reflective of any indication whatsoever that it's turned into sugar. As a matter of fact, some of my best blood sugar numbers come after I've had a protein packed meal with 50 to 55 or 60 grams of protein in it. Because I tend not to eat 3 meals in a day, the 2 meals that I do eat may have a little more protein in it. Some days I'm just not in the mood for that much protein, and I might only have 30, 35, or 40 in my 2 meals. I usually have a morning bulletproof coffee, and sometimes I will include some supplements. Sometimes I'll wait until I eat my lunch to take the supplements. But, I do enjoy the protein because it's satiating. Really, it's hard to overdo protein in that respect because, especially if you're not trying to limit your fat, if you're eating the fat that you're supposed to at the same time that you're eating the protein, it's really hard to overdo that number. And that was the beauty of it for me. If you believe in the calorie in, calorie out method, which I do not, I believe it's a load of nonsense. Um, Calorie is no more a unit of energy than anything that you make up on a piece of paper. Okay, I do believe energy in, energy out, which is a different concept. I actually kind of came up with this idea, witness on my own account anyway, that energy, okay, with the it's energy in, right, times your hormones, like level, right, are they in check, right, minus your energy needs for the day equals your output. Okay, so in other words, in there, factoring in this, you have to include your hormones. When you eat a high fat diet, your hormones come back into regulation. You end up burning more energy. You end up doing better overall, and you also naturally eat less on a ketogenic diet, which is a great testament. Not that you can't overeat on it, just most people don't because they don't really want to go there. It doesn't make them feel good, actually. So don't look at protein as like the enemy here because it's not. The kind of protein that you get is by far more important than the amount of it here when we're talking about the spectrum on where you can fit on this. If you have any doubts, just check your blood glucose level. That's my best advice to you on that. But anyway, I want to thank you for joining me today. If you're like me and you've wondered about this protein thing, like I said, I have a range. I think most people have a range. Aim to get a certain amount in a day, and every once in a while it doesn't hurt to have a lower protein day to boot. I think sometimes that can help. Kind of reset your body a little bit if you're having trouble losing weight. Having a day or two where you have the protein, you might not want to overdo your workouts on those days. But having a day or two where you have your proteins, leave your fat level where they're at, or include a little more fat if you need it, and see if you have any success in that factor. But other than that, don't look at protein as the enemy. I know that there's some people out there who advocate high ends and low ends. Just listen to your body on this. That's my best recommendation. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to you or working with you on some other topics in the very near future.